Ladies and gentlemen, my name is TotalBiscuit. I'm here to ask and answer one simple question. WTF is Dust, an Elysian tale. Now, this is a game you may have heard of, and the reason that you may have heard of it is because it was part of 2012's Summer of Arcade on Xbox Live. This game got a lot of noise around the time that it came out. And there's a number of reasons for that. The first one being that this was developed by one person over the course of 4 years. The name of his company is Humble Hearts, which consists of one guy by the name of Dean Dodrell. Now, the unusual part is that while games are often made by single people, one, they don't tend to look like this, and two, usually they have someone else do the art for them. Because the difference between a programmer and an artist, well, it's huge, it's massive. Most programmers can't do good art and vice versa. However, this guy did both of those things on his own over the course of 4 years. Now, needless to say, some of the stuff in the game is not by him. The music, for instance. Some of it's by Alexander Brandon, the famous composer behind stuff like Deus Ex, as well as Jazz Jackrabbit and Unreal Tournament. Quite the man, one of my favorite VGM composers, very cool guy indeed. And the rest of it's done by Hyperduck, who were also responsible for the music of a game called Ares Extinction Agenda, which was a Metroidvania-esque futuristic game that I actually had a lot of fun with, but the music was the really standout part of that game. So, it's finally made its way to PC. Why am I covering it now? It's been almost a year. Well, there's a few reasons, and I think one of the most important is to highlight and, of course, reward by showing this game and at least giving it some publicity on the PC. Not that it really needs that much help, but regardless, I think recognition is required for one of the best PC ports I've ever seen of anything. And quite frankly, this port humiliates major publishers. It really, really does. Considering the amount of problems that we've had with all sorts of games, Xbox Live arcade games in particular generally get a pretty bad port. All sorts of things end up going wrong with it. They don't prioritize for the PC. They don't properly adapt it. This is a huge exception. Let me show you why. So, first things first. This is rare in even PC-specific games, but it's available here. The Adjust HUD option, allowing you to move the HUD as you so desire, like this. You can move elements of the HUD around and place them wherever you feel comfortable. Now, for some people with a big monitor, they don't necessarily want it in the corner because it can be too far away from their usual area of the screen where they would actually look. So maybe you just want it closer. Maybe you want it around here, because then you could kind of see it in the corner of your eye to monitor your health and things like that. You can also scale it. I mean, you could even go that big if you wanted. So this is actually useful for people that decide to maybe play on a television or play on a monitor they're far away from. They can scale up elements of the HUD, which is very, very cool indeed. So that in itself's good, but it gets better than that. The settings menu, even for a two-dimensional game, is ridiculously impressive. And each of these describes exactly what it does, which is really kind of cool. I'm not really sure why it overwrites some of the screen there. Like, maybe they could just use that area down the bottom to actually put the tooltips. That would be nice. And it's fully mouse-driven, all of it. I mean, that in itself is extremely rare for Xbox Live ports, so you can customize depth of field, post-processing, weather effects, variable refresh rate, which is quite nice. You can do all sorts of different things with that. That basically is VSync. And this is, it's such a small thing, but it shows the amount of dedication that was put into this. So as you're well aware on Xbox Live, stuff generally doesn't run at 1080p 60, right? Because the machine can't cope with it. And that also means that a lot of your assets kind of have to be squeezed down. They have to be compressed, especially since there's a size limit for Xbox Live games. Now, the normal portraits are a little bit blurry, as you might think. And maybe you've seen quite a few games lately where there have been pre-recorded assets that look blocky. They've got artifacts, they're lower resolution, rather than rendering them in full 1080p. Well, in this case, there is actually a portrait high-quality option, which means that the dialogue in this game and the characters, as they're rendered, look a lot better when they're speaking. And it's such a small thing, but it's so cool. Also has a colorblind mode. Yes. Way too few games have this. They really, really do. I'm actually very surprised that game companies are getting away with not having colorblind modes in their games, considering how many colorblind people there actually are. That needs to be in pretty much every game where color is even remotely important. Control methods, it automatically detects and you can customize to your liking, as you can see right there. I'm happy to report this game runs perfectly on keyboard and mouse, which for a 2D, some would say action platformer, some are saying it's a bit of an action RPG, I'm actually saying it's more of a brawler with RPG elements in it. The fact that it runs perfectly and responsively with a mouse and keyboard is very unusual, and it's very, very cool indeed. So, full customization. Very nice. So, the port is phenomenal. Really, really good. It even has, if you can actually believe that, proper save slots. Proper save slots. Both auto save via checkpoints and your own personal save slots here. So if you want to actually keep multiple saves, you can keep up to 10 of them plus this, which again used to be standard for PC games. For ports it isn't. You generally have to rely on those auto saves. You don't have to here, which is very cool. You can even copy the file by the looks of it, which, you know, all of this is ridiculously unusual. It's the kind of thing that you would not expect in a game like this, certainly not from one guy. I tweeted at him earlier because I wanted to get some information. He said, you know what, I'm primarily a PC gamer, so I created the port that I would be happy with as a PC gamer. So he took his time, and he did this. That is laudable. Okay, let's get into the game, shall we? See what's going on right there. Alright, I'm going to resume it, about, let's say, 7% into the game. This is a surprisingly lengthy game, actually. You can beat it if you blitz it and don't do any of the side quests in about 8.5 hours, but according to various game length websites, a run with completing most of the side quests takes more like 13 completionist runs where you get everything. Bearing in mind this is a little bit Metroidvania-esque at times, so there's a lot of hidden stuff and backtracking required in order to get items or powers to gain access to certain areas. It can take upwards of 20. So for a $15 game made by one guy, that's pretty impressive. So, welcome to Dust: An American Tale. You may notice the art style seems to be fairly heavily inspired by, of course, a lot of anthropomorphic stuff. It's very colorful, and of course by stuff like Fievel Goes West and An American Tale. In fact, I can have words with him and we can see exactly what I'm talking about there.
Hey, I'm Mayor Bram. So, you're the hero I've been hearing about.
It's nothing, really. We're just passing through.
No need to be modest, my friend. We can't thank you enough for your help. Things have been rough in Aurora of late, so having a true hero in our midst is really boosting morale. So, what's your name, son?
Dust. My name is Dust. And some of the villagers I've met, they don't seem quite as pleased as you.
Ah, are you talking about the Watchmen? You must understand, hardly a day goes by without some monstrosity attacking our peaceful village. They were simply being cautious. Take my word, I'm sure they meant no ill will.
There was also this girl.
Yes, that could only be Ginger. She can be a bit of a handful, but don't pass judgment on her like that. You have no idea what she's gone through this past year.
She looked pretty upset about something.
Don't concern yourself. We have other matters to discuss.
What help could I possibly provide? A few giants in a field seem like the least of your problems.
Yet again with the modesty. You're no mere travelers, that much I've gathered. Mineral merchants don't wield blades as impressive as yours, Dust. Please, we really could use the help.
I don't know. I'm searching for something myself.
Then perhaps we can help each other. If you help our village, I promise I'll do whatever I can to help you. But I can be of no assistance while our village is constantly attacked by these creatures. We suspect their leader is close by, and if you could...
Whoa. Hold on a second. You're saying those mindless thugs have a leader?
Until recently, they would attack us in small groups. Nothing we couldn't handle. Now, they coordinate attacks on a much larger scale, hitting the village on both sides, driving our forces apart. I assure you, whatever leads these things is experienced in warfare.
What do they want?
Our land, I imagine.
Just a casual observation, but they don't seem the farming type.
Well, whatever it is, it's become a serious problem. If you truly are as capable as I hear...
You want us to find their leader?
It certainly would cripple their advance. You'd be doing the entire village a great service.
How about it, Dust?
Well,
You feel a conflict of emotions. This is good. I will abide by your decision, Master. I trust you to take the right path.
Helping this village is the right thing to do. But it's more than that. It's almost like I know these people. Like I have to help them.
I think that strange feeling you've got is a little foreign concept called compassion. I'm proud of you, Dust. Of course, if you said no, I'd need to bite your face off.
Charming as always, Fidget.
I think you've made a wise decision.
All right, Mayor Bram, you've convinced us. We'll do what we can to help stop these attacks.
That's my boy. The Watchman reported increased monster activity to the east of our village, so I imagine that's where you should go. But do be careful. Strong as you may be, I've seen many fine warriors lose their lives to these monstrosities.
I understand, Mayor. I'll be careful. And I'll be back.
Alright, fairly lengthy exhibition of the game's voice talent there. It's not bad, honestly. It does vary in places, especially considering that it's obvious they got a bunch of independent voice actors to do it, and they had variable equipment. They weren't in the same studio. If they were, it would be rather odd, because I did hear a character early in the game that clearly sounded like he had less of a great microphone than everybody else. But for the most part, the voice talent's actually pretty good. It accomplishes the aims that it's set out to do. Like, you could find Fidget annoying, for instance, but she's kind of supposed to be. The voice actress is clearly putting this very specific voice on. Reminds me of that stupid-ass fairy from Zelda, whose name escapes me for some reason. Why can't I remember that? I don't know. I think there's too much nonsense from the internet getting into my brain. Stuff's leaking out. Anyway, you know exactly who I'm talking about. The main character, a little bit kind of an anime dub, I suppose. Sounds very much like the sort of reluctant hero that you would find in a lot of either cartoons or Japanese anime. And then the sword, pretty cool. And occasionally you'll run onto someone who's got a really nice character to them. It's got some pretty cool lines and stuff like that. Fairly impressive regardless, considering it's an indie title and these are obviously independent voice actors. Now, what you see here is a world map. This will allow you to travel around various places. Pretty important to be able to do that, considering that there's a lot of stuff to find. You'll notice here that that being the first area, I only got 55% of the treasure there. There is something that I do want to do there, but I can't really do it right now because I don't have the necessary keys. There appears to also be an ability there that I missed, although I think I know what it is, and I'll have to come back when I get the ability to climb up some slippery vines. So, very Metroidvania-esque, very much so. So, that's where the main quest is, which is why I'm going to go here and do a couple of side quests instead, because I don't want to spoil the plot for you as we go in. Alright. Wow, it's even got cutscenes. Okay, that in itself is fairly impressive. Not particularly long, but hey, there you go. This whole game oozes a very specific kind of style. It is a colorful, cartoony world with very much anthropomorphic characters within it. And I know what some of you are thinking. Ah, okay, so I need a gem to get through there. Interesting. I'll find one of those later. I know what some of you are thinking. OMG furries. Yeah, don't worry. I definitely understand the notion of that. Unfortunately, because of the internet, doing the whole anthropomorphic animals thing really doesn't work as well as it used to. I think simply because a lot of people make assumptions about what that actually is. They think, oh, it's all sexualized. Well, I mean, there's nothing in this game that appears to be at all, which is in itself a very good thing indeed. It seems like the guy who created it wanted to make a game that had anthropomorphic animals in it as the characters, and pretty much every creature in this game is an animal of some sort, except for some of the actual monsters. All the good guys appear to be animals anyway. There used to be a time when that, of course, was part of the course for games, and then it sort of fell out of fashion. I think a lot of people treated it as a very childish thing, which, as someone that grew up watching stuff like Robin Hood and pretty much all the Disney stuff, and Fievel Goes West, American Tail, and things like that, I'm definitely not someone that agrees with that assessment, and I'm very comfortable with that idea, of having characters like that, and I feel that it can definitely create a very unique and fun world. And combined with the fantastic art direction that this game's got, and I mean, and it really, really does. I love the kind of idle animations in this game. They're very much SNES and Genesis Mega Drive era stuff, but brought bang up to date with full 1080p HD graphics, which is something else that I should point out about the PC version. The console version ran in 720p. This does not appear to be upscaled as far as I can tell. If he has upscaled it, he's done a damn fine job. I mean, you gotta bear in mind that the original art won't have been in 720p. You don't draw like that. The originals will have been far higher resolution, and then you downscale in order to get it running at the right speed on old console hardware. So the art style to me is kind of enchanting in many, many ways, and the animation quality only adds to that. Now, animation quality isn't that important unless the combat system is up to snuff and it's actually fluid. My god, is it responsive. There's two reasons why that actually impresses me. One, making a responsive combat system is actually pretty difficult. And secondly, the fact that it's doing it with keyboard and mouse, considering it was originally a console title. There are plenty, and I do mean plenty, of examples of games that have not succeeded in doing that. Maybe they've had mouse acceleration, or they just haven't done it right. And it's ended up in a situation where the game just isn't fun to play as a direct result. However, somehow, some way, this game has got one of the most responsive 2D combat systems I have ever played. The game never does anything derpy. It always does exactly what I tell it to do. Very important thing to be able to handle in a game like this, which is, some would say, an action RPG. It is much closer to a brawler. Yeah? It is very combat focused. It does have some questing in it. It has an inventory system. But I'd say it's more of a brawler. It's got a bit of Metroidvania in it. It's got quite a lot of Metroidvania in it, honestly. There are even Castlevania references, including this right here, the mysterious wall chicken. Yes, indeed. If you play Castlevania, you'll know all about wall chickens. This game definitely likes its references. The shopkeepers reference Resident Evil 4, which is always fun to watch. Alright. Let's get these guys out of the way. Now, you have a variety of different attacks with your sword, and your companion, Fidget, also has projectiles. The projectiles are initially pretty weak, but you can get different kinds of projectiles as you go through the game. Now, what you can do is combine these projectiles with a right-click attack called the Dust Storm, which does that. Or this, if you're in the air, and I imagine there's different variants as you go through the game. Now, if you hold that down and then fire off the projectiles split up, and then they fire in different directions. Now, Dust Storm can't be maintained for long. If you keep doing it, you'll end up hitting yourself and doing damage and breaking yourself out of it. It also breaks your attack chain, which is broken if you get hit as well, which will actually result in your XP bonuses being reset. So, generally not something that you actually want to have happen. The attack variety with your sword seems pretty reasonable. It's very responsive, as I said, so you've got air dashes, you've got regular dashes backwards and forwards. You have a parry system, which is not done like that, which allows you to directly parry an attack that is coming in your direction. Looks like I'm actually going to have to use some better healing items. This guy's kicking my ass. And it will stun the opponent. It is a difficult thing to pull off, honestly, because the timing has got to be just right. Aside from that, though, you can pretty easily dodge out of the way of most attacks. Now, what I would say, which is a weakness of the game, is perhaps its difficulty level. You really need to crank it up to max for it to be a challenge. I started on normal, and I just wasn't getting hit ever. It was incredibly easy to do that. As you can see here by this level up system, I haven't even upgraded my defense, and I've only upgraded my health once. And it's just a case of saying to myself, well, you know what, I can just wreck things. I actually put all my points into attack, and I just try and kill stuff before it kills me, and as long as you're doing the right kind of combos and you're dodging in and out, it's pretty rare that you actually get hit by anything that's not a boss. Oh, I love that little reference to Mario right there. That's absolutely fantastic. There's actually a lot of interesting stuff in this game, including plenty of fourth wall breaking. It's hard not to smile and grin at some of the stuff that the game actually throws at you. The game's got a surprising amount of enemy variety as well. Even in the first area, there were a reasonable number of different enemies, and now those flying enemies, those exploding enemies, and things like that are very much things that I did not see previously. Okay. So apparently these guys are vulnerable when taking a deeper breath. Interesting. Gotta be a little bit careful. That could have just blown up and killed me. That would have been unpleasant. I think the complaint about the difficulty is definitely a valid one. But if you turn it up to max and you're not an uber gamer, chances are you're gonna do pretty well. I think, as I said, it's got maybe too many easy levels. That was stupid. What on earth am I doing? Wow. That was a terrible thing to do. There we go. It's got a few too many easy levels. They could have definitely done with less of them. Obviously, a more challenging mode would have been good. Alright, let's go to the shop. So, as you can see, the game very much has an economy with it. So, you can buy a variety of different items, including materials. Now, I haven't unlocked a blacksmith yet, but there is a crafting system within the game that allows you to acquire blueprints and then create them into various different upgrades. Now, these upgrades are mostly augments. As far as I can tell, the weapon in the game will be the sword. You can buff the sword by using augments. In this case, I have a dull whetstone. You can use all sorts of things like that. Nice little bit of humor in there as well. You can also buy different pieces of armor which have different stats. It is mostly stats. As far as I know, that the game will certainly not change your appearance. I guess that's understandable when you have one artist who's also the programmer. I need to actually buy a second smooth ring. You can wear 2 rings because, you know, logic. What would be nice is if... Oh, I would love to buy some treasure keys, but they're so expensive. That's not going to happen today. I might even end up needing to buy some healing items because I'm actually taking damage from those bombs. There we go. So we'll have a look at the inventory system. You can see here you have a variety of different items that can be replaced and upgraded. And you'll see the stats to the side there. There we go. You can wear a pendant, you can wear 2 rings, piece of armor. That's your quick slot heal. And then you've got augments as well as items and keys. So I only have a single key. I definitely need to find a few more of those. I wonder if there is a way from that way down there. There's most likely an ability that lets you go down there. Again, if this is the kind of thing that you find irritating, then I certainly wouldn't be playing any Metroidvania-style games. They are certainly well known for that. Alright, let's open this up, see what's in there. Ah, a strength salve. That's actually a fairly serious buff there. Plus 30 attack and increases fidgets damage as well. That was something that I had a blueprint for, but looks like I'm not going to need that. Always cool. Alright, so I'm going to hit a little bit harder now. I've got to say, the overall combat system, because of how responsive it is really fun. And I think that pretty much gets over the problems that the difficulty would have otherwise had. It also partially gets over the fact that you are stuck with one weapon. I mean, you do learn different moves and combos as you go through the game, but it is very much a game where you got your sword, and then you've got fidgets, projectiles, and that's kind of about it. Now, if you were hoping for lots of different kinds of weapons, then you're probably going to end up being extremely disappointed. Because it's Talkie Sword and little flying fox thingy or nothing. But I'm alright with games that just use one weapon, honestly. If they've got sufficient attack variety, and if you've got some kind of secondary function that allows you to, say, change your projectiles around, and also combo the two together, which is fairly unusual. I find that a lot of games take... Oh, that was stupid. Take the projectile approach, whereby you are using projectiles as a secondary ability, and it really just doesn't synergize in any way with your main attacks. Here, the whole dust storm thing is very much a attack that ties in with your main swordy stuffy. What am I even talking about? Sorry, I'm paying far too much attention to the detail and the backgrounds and all this crazy nonsense and the great music that's going on behind this. Can I dodge out of the way of that? Yeah, I'm just going to avoid these guys entirely, I think. By that, I mean I'm going to air dash right into them. Yeah, that's common sense, right? Ah, there was actually a reference to this bit earlier. There was a note that I found in the first area that said something about a leap of faith off an arm of a statue. I think there's a secret down here. There we go. Cool. That was nice. Guess it's good to pay attention to such things, right? We'll break our way through here. But yeah, I mean, as I said, I think the overall combat is enjoyable enough to really get over the idea that you only have one weapon. And honestly, I mean, just the stuff that you can combo together is great. You can stay in the air for like upwards of a minute. That's the kind of stuff that I really love doing in games like God of War. It's like, oh yeah, I'm just gonna fly through the freaking sky, and it's gonna be wonderful, and I'm gonna just juggle people for big combos, and you can definitely do that here. That was super dumb. I should probably avoid doing that. Thankfully, it looks like these things don't kill you. They just take you down to 1 health, but I'm rapidly running out of healing items. In the first area, I was barely taking any damage, but they've started to put some environmental stuff in, which means that it's more likely that you will actually get hit and die. Let's see if I... Oh! Let's see if I can dash through here. That would be my first death, so I guess we can explore the actual system here. There we go. Head on back to the checkpoint. There we go. So, I'm going to have to do this part of the game again, but at the end of the day, I was punished for being terrible, so I guess that's fine. Ah! I was trying to do my aerial dust storm to get past there, but I didn't pull it off. That's my own fault, though. I think if you were to talk about this game as a personal achievement, then it's really easy to say, this is incredible. Holy hell. But you can't really necessarily say that. You can use it to excuse things, but you can't necessarily say this game is amazing because it was made by one person, yeah? If it was made by 1 people or 300 people, you've got to look at that quality objectively, right? And here's the thing. I can safely say that this game is, in almost all respects, absolutely phenomenal. It's got great animation quality, extremely enjoyable combat, amazing visuals. It's got a cool story with some excellent voice actors. It's got plenty of content. A game like this you would expect to be like 4 hours, right? The fact that it's 8 and maybe closer to 12 or 13 if you actually do all the side quests is great. I mean, that's absolutely phenomenal. It's very unusual to even find that in games which actually have larger development teams. This kind of $15 title usually doesn't have that. This one does somehow. I mean, I guess the guy spent 4 years of his life making the game of his dreams, and as a result, when it's that much of a passion project, I guess that's how you perform, and that's the level of quality that you can actually expect from some guy that does that. Incredible, really, when you think about it. The whole game oozes charm, and somehow it oozes unbelievable talent. Massive proficiency. It doesn't lack in any area, as far as I can tell. My complaint about the difficulty level can be partially solved by simply playing it on the highest difficulty. And quite frankly, this game really doesn't have a right to exist in the form that it does. Like, it's actually too good for one guy. It almost made me question whether or not it was even one guy that made it, frankly. I did some research, and I was like, did he really? I mean, no, surely he must have had a ton amount of help on this and that, but no. No, he's responsible for all of this thing. I mean, and what a piece of work. It's so hard to even just look at it and try to critique it, because almost everything that it does in such an incredible way. This is the kind of thing that represents what the games as art argument can be, but in a very simple way. Some would look at this and say, oh, well, it looks nice, but is it art? In the sense of a game, it is. Yeah? If you were to compare it to the Mona Lisa, then people would just laugh at you and say, lol, it's some furry platformer, what are you talking about, you stupid neckbeard? But in reality, if you were to look at a game and look at the sum of what makes it a game, and what makes a game a compelling story and an interesting interactive experience, if you look at those parts, which quite frankly are the most important things that you could possibly think of when it comes to games. It's not important that a game has a message, that a game is intelligent. It's important that a game is an enjoyable and thoroughly fantastic interactive experience. That's the kind of thing you should be looking at. And that is what this is, in so many different ways. It's a fantastic world that really draws you in. There's a great story going on in the background, very mysterious. It's got some fantastic inspiration. It's got some great references that don't go too overboard. I think it's extremely easy to overdo it with the fourth wall breaking stuff. Very much so. But he doesn't do that. He throws in just enough humor, just enough dumb stuff to really kind of make you grin. And this is a game that almost consistently throughout my initial playthrough of it was making me smile at all of the different things that I could find, all of the crazy stuff that was going on within it, and the fact that regardless of being just a really beautiful game, it also had the mechanics to back it up. It had the great combat engine, it had the responsiveness, it had the ability to combo together, and it actually had a reasonably high skill ceiling. And it rewarded you for being a great player. Even if it is an easier game, it rewards you for not being hit. It gives you more stuff. It rewards you for exploring and being smart.
If I knew we were having company, I'd have cleared
It's a classic. How could you possibly view it in any other way? If this came out at any other time, in any other generation, it would be regarded as a classic. It would be something that was remembered to this day as one of the finest examples in the genre. And just because this game came out last year, doesn't mean we get to ignore the fact that it pretty much gets everything right.
Don't mind him.
And not only that, we should very clearly appreciate it as one of the finest examples of PC ports from Xbox Live. Which sounds like a small thing, but I think that if somebody pours that much work, that much effort, and that much respect into our platform, when he didn't have to. This is a guy that made his money on Xbox Live. He was invited to the Summer of Arcade. A lot of devs that get that honor, who are able to do that, basically get those kind of guaranteed sales because Summer of Arcade is so heavily promoted by Microsoft. Those guys just say, well, you know what, it's fine. That's cool. I've sold my game. I'm not really going to worry about porting it to another platform, and even if I do, I'm not really going to put a huge amount of effort into doing that. God, this is all mouse-driven. Most games don't even get that right. God. And yeah, this guy did. This guy is great. This guy has ridiculous amounts of talent. This guy deserves all the success we could possibly throw at him and then some for just being such a dedicated person, such a fantastic developer. For $15 on Steam, under no circumstances would I ever say don't get this. Like, it's a no-brainer. Unless you are somehow put off by the art style, and I'm not going to judge you for that. Some people have been on the internet too long, they've seen too many weird things on DeviantArt and 4chan, and I could totally understand. You might not be into the whole anthropomorphic thing. Even if it is non-sexual and very clearly just an interesting artistic design choice. Something that really feeds into a colorful environment and a vibrant world, and very much a gamey experience. I get it. But you're missing out on one of the finest action adventures that I've had the pleasure to play in the last few years. One of the best PC ports that I've seen in a very, very long time, and something that was somehow, some way, over the course of 4 years, created as a passion project by a single man, developed into one of the best action, brawler, adventure, RPG, whatever the hell you want to call it, games that I've ever had the pleasure to play. This game is brilliance in its purest form, one might say, if someone wanted to really be pretentious and nonsensical. What I would say is, it's just a damn good game. A lot of effort, a lot of dedication, great systems, great art. I'm gushing right now. It's great. It's great! Buy the game, you idiots! What are you doing? Why are you still watching this video? Buy the game! Play it for yourself. Enjoy a great slice of Metroidvania action. Right? I'm not going to pretend to be some really important critic with high-minded ideas. I just like video games, and I really like this one. It's on Steam, ladies and gentlemen. $15 or your regional equivalent. My name's been TotalBiscuit. Thank you very much for watching, and I'll see you next time.